Radio hits left and right, and we have Adam Carolla, famous comedian, coming up shortly. Fonte, what were you just doing?
Oh, no, Sarah Vinny kidnapped me. 97.3 Alice. This is nothing. I made it. I was on 97.3 Alice. That's the big time.
That is big time.
That is the big time. I could do a show with them.
Oh.
They were
I would like you to do it with me, but
vibe.
that's fine.
Felt like we had better chemistry than Shasky, Spinoni, or anybody in this building.
Wow.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, you're
kidding.
not.
It's
No,
a
you're
little
not.
joke. It's appropriate to have a joke because we have a comedian coming on. Adam Carolla, formerly of The Man Show. Remember The Man Show back in the day with Jimmy Kimmel? They both made it big.
I probably shouldn't have been watching that because I was watching it when I was like 8 or 9 years old, but it is what it is, especially with those opening parts where it was scantily clad women jumping on trampolines.
We call that great parenting.
There you go.
That's what that
or
is.
Or lack of parenting.
Or lack of parenting. Lack of parenting. And you're probably aging Adam Carolla. Adam, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Roast. Long time no talk. He's at Cobb's Comedy Club this weekend, tonight, tomorrow. Also has shows coming up in Spokane and Tacoma, Washington, October 28th and 29th. He's going up to Sacramento. Now, when you go up to Sacramento, make sure you wear a Lakers jersey or a Warriors jersey because Kings fans, they're a little salty right now. They're a little sensitive. Make sure you let them know where you're from, Adam.
I shall. I am from Los Angeles, by the way, born and bred. One of the few people in show business that's actually from this dump.
And you're actually one of the few people who is a Rams fan. Like there's like 5 Rams fans, and you're one of them. I was down at SoFi Stadium earlier this season. I couldn't spot a Rams fan. It was our unofficial home opener for the 49ers.
Oh, man. When the Rams played the Steelers in the Super Bowl in '79, they played it at the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl is about 4 miles away from the Coliseum where the Rams play, and there were many more Steelers fans in that place than there were Rams fans. As a matter of fact, everyone here is from somewhere else, and whatever their childhood team was, even if they left when they were 7 years old and they lived here for 40 years, they still root for their childhood team. So there's almost no Rams fans in LA.
Do you think the Super Bowl, that win, is going to help galvanize that fan group as because you're going to have a lot of kids, right, in LA who maybe have just became Ram fans, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. So do you think like 20, 30 years down the line, there'll actually be a legitimate fan base there? Or is it always just going to be, you know what, there's too much going on, too many out-of-towners coming in to live in LA, and they'll never just have a true, massive fan base compared to all these big markets?
Well, I think your theory would be correct, except for Gavin Newsom is running California into the ground so fast, and LA is such a dump that all those 8 and 9-year-olds, when they graduate high school, are moving to Texas.
Oh, no.
So we're going to lose our Rams fan base again because they're all going to Florida, Nashville, Texas, and Nevada.
Man, a lot of losses there in Texas for them Cowboys in Houston, Texas, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, a lot of sadness down in Texas, and I'm not mad at that. Adam Carolla here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game. What's your thoughts on Brock Purdy before we shift over to basketball and talk about what you're doing here at Cobb's this weekend coming to San Francisco? I used to work at Cobb's Comedy Club, and I remember a set you did back in the day. You showed your salaries before you made it big time. Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah.
You showed your salaries, man. It was like $7,000 a year, $8,000 a year. You made it big time. I think you were working at McDonald's making $15,000 a year.
There were some zeros in there, and there was a lot of $3,000 and $4,000 a year.
Now you're making that today.
That was a chart.
Now you're making that today.
Besides losing money talking to you guys,
Go ahead.
That was my Social Security statement. So at some point in your life, they'll send you your Social Security statement, which'll show you all the money you've made every year you started. And I looked at this thing and I just marveled. I worked at McDonald's. I made like $2,000 that year. I made first year in construction, I made like $6,000. So at the bottom was like $2 million a year because that's what I got in the show, after I got in the show business. But I looked at it and I thought, just the greatest chart I've ever seen in my life. But we're talking about Brock Purdy.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on Brock Purdy?
It's funny how we are as a society. He kind of, when you see him being interviewed and stuff, he doesn't look like a quarterback. He doesn't have that that Garoppolo look or the Tom Brady look. Like there's something about him that just doesn't. He just looks like a dude who works for Uber Eats or something and drops you off some chicken or something. So he doesn't really have that look. Once he gets on the field, he looks like it. I mean, he's playing lights out. How can you argue with how the guy is playing? And it's one thing to score, I don't know, 48 points, 44 points, whatever they scored the other night, but lighting up Dallas's defense, he's playing lights out. He just looks like the kid next door.
So Adam, and we're talking to Adam Carolla, famous comedian, one of the funniest guys in America. I've been watching you since I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I probably shouldn't have been watching the show, The Man Show, with you and Jimmy Kimmel, obviously. But you know what? My parents weren't awake, and I was watching G4 late at night, and you guys were on. Loved the opening scene with all the women jumping up on the trampoline.
Don't we all?
Do you think a show like that could be made today?
Well, it's funny. I saw Jimmy last night at an event for a movie we did called Windy City Heat, which is now 20 years old. It's a long story, but if people want to see a really funny movie, they can look up Windy City Heat. But I always answer it this way when people go, do you think you could make the Man Show today? I go, I could make the Man Show, but I don't think Jimmy could make the Man Show. He's got a real job.
That is a great point. Adam Carolla doing 2 shows at Cobb's Comedy Club this weekend. Check them out. Tickets on sale. It's a really good time with Adam at Cobb's. I miss Cobb's when I used to work there. You're also a big Laker fan, and we got the Warriors coming around, and obviously the Lakers ended the Warrior season in 6 games in the second round. And on your driver's license, apparently, it says Adam Lakers Carolla. Now, my man over here, Joe Spadoni, is smiling from ear to ear because somehow he got a job here by being a Lakers fan. And having it work with him during that series was very, very painful. When Lonnie Walker lit up the Warriors in that fourth quarter, and I sat up here and I told the roasters, I told everybody on these airways, I'm depressed this morning, and he was just had that little smile, that little snicker. Adam, you root for the wrong teams. Just don't bring that purple and yellow out this weekend, please.
Well, when you grow up in L.A., especially when you're the right age and you got Showtime and that whole world that you just saw in Winning Time, it's really hard. Especially the Rams weren't. The Rams were okay back then, but they've always been, fair to middling with a couple of good seasons. At some point, they packed up and went to St. Louis. So I never really was a baseball guy. I mean, Dodgers had some good years for sure with Tommy Lasorda, but I just wasn't a big fan of watching baseball. So, and Lakers isn't really my middle name. I just wrote it in when I went to the DMV. But it's on every it's on every document I have. It's on every official piece of paper I own. I just wrote it in, and they let me write in because I do not have a middle name.
So you brought up Winning Time. What'd you think of that show? Because my girl, who's not a huge fan, was really intrigued with Winning Time. She doesn't know the history of the Showtime Lakers. She's not a big sports fan. What'd you think of that? Growing up, knowing the stories, and then watching it kind of play out, I don't know, it was all the parody. I thought it was pretty funny. I know a lot of people are not happy with it. People who worked with the Lakers, worked with Jerry West. What'd you think of Winning Time, Adam?
I thought John C. Reilly should be nominated for an Emmy, man.
Yeah.
I think he knocked it out of the park. I loved it. I thought it was a great series. I'm surprised that it's canceled. I guess it was canceled for ratings reasons, or at least that's what I heard. I thought it was a fun watch. Now, I'm of a certain age, and I grew up in L.A., so when they're showing, stock footage of the old Forum, and they're talking about Chick Hearns, I grew up listening to Chick Hearns talk about the mustard was off the hot dog and put them in the popcorn machine and all that stuff. So all those names, all those faces, all those places, even when they're just going through L.A. in the late 70s, early 80s, that's where I grew up. So it's hard for me to separate myself from it, but I thought it was a great series. I loved it. If I was Jerry West, I'd be pissed off, but I loved it.
So, Adam, obviously you go to different markets here and there. You're in the Bay Area market now, and, some of your stuff that's hitting over in Texas or Florida may not be hitting the same way over here. So I'm just curious, as a comedian, when you're going from different markets and seeing what's hitting and what's not, you're obviously sticking to script. Is that, I don't want to say difficult, but what's the feeling like when you're hitting somewhere so hard and it was the exact same show, the exact same thing, you go somewhere else like a San Francisco or San Jose, and it's just like, that didn't hit the same. Is it just like whatever for you, you're just going to keep going? I'm just, the thought of a comedian doing that, because I feel like it's one of the hardest jobs in the world, going up there with the microphone. Hell, I have a 1 hour show Monday through Friday. I'm just talking about sports for an hour and I'm scared to death half the time. You're trying to make people laugh, which is one of the hardest things to do in anything. So how's that feel for you, going from different markets and having the same act and not hitting the same way from place to place?
Well, it is interesting, especially now in this, climate of division. And, you do shows in West Hollywood on the Sunset Strip at the Comedy Store, and that is a different audience than you get when you're in Nebraska or Wisconsin. When you're in Appleton, Wisconsin, that's just a different crowd. What I started doing when I went on the road is I came up with a list of jokes, and that's just a set of jokes called Jokes I Can't Tell in L.A. And so I go, these are jokes I can't tell in L.A., but I'm in Appleton, Wisconsin, so let's see if you guys can handle these jokes. And it makes it fun, and it makes them feel like they're in on something. But I was literally thinking about San Francisco, because I was like, wait a minute, San Francisco's more woke than L.A. even is, and half my jokes are totally offensive. But I thought to myself, I'll do them. And if they don't work, you can screw around with the crowd and you can have some fun and you can call them uptight. And maybe I'll try the set of jokes that won't work in L.A. in San Francisco, which theoretically they'll work less in San Francisco. But it's fun. I mean, I have tons of jokes. And the thing about my offensive jokes is they end with a punchline. My thing is you can be as offensive as you want. It's got to be true, and it's got to end with a joke. You can't just be offensive for the sake of being offensive. If it ends with something funny, then it's funny, and then screw the audience.
At one point, you said cancel culture is destroying free speech and killing comedy. We want to expound on that. What did you mean by that? And you still believe that to this day, Adam?
Well, it's caused a lot of comedians to second guess what they're going to say. And much like the great Magic Johnson bringing the ball up the hardwood back in the Lakers day, you wouldn't want Magic Johnson thinking about the implications of where he was going to pass the ball. You just want him going down free form like a great jazz musician improvising, And comedians are, for the first time in a long time, thinking, vetting, like, can I tell this joke? What if I tell? I've had comedians say to me about jokes, like, oh, that's really funny. Too bad you can't do it. Or I'd love to tell this joke, but I can't tell this joke. And you don't want comedians up there like in their head, second guessing. You want them. By the way, you don't want any artist second. You don't want a painter or sculptor or a poet like sort of second guessing themselves, like vetting jokes and material. And we're at that point now. So I see a lot of comedians, come in to do my podcast, and you're talking about women or traffic or airline food or whatever, they're fine. You bring up race or you bring up transgender, you bring up something sensitive, and you see them stiffen up. And all of a sudden they kind of stop talking. And then you realize the person who's been talking about everything just stopped talking because I brought up some transgender story or something like that. And I just don't want comedians stiffening up that way.
Interesting stuff there. Adam Carolla will be at Cobb's Comedy Club tonight, tomorrow. Check him out there, Tacoma and Spokane, Washington, October 28th and 29th, and up in Sacramento, November 14th and 15th. Adam, good luck. Not really good luck to your Lakers. We're not worried about the Rams too much. We got you guys in our back pocket. Have a good show. Thanks for joining us today on the Morning Roast.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Adam Carolla here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game. Can we do something? Because I was down at Alice with Sarah and Vinny, and I missed the show.